Drop it.
In the last 15 or so years, survival horror has really come into its own in video gaming, with games like Amnesia, Dead Space, Fear, and probably other stuff. But the one that started it all was Resident Evil, a series which I never even played till recently. And it all started a couple months ago with a game you might have heard, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 to me is the Half-Life 2 of survival horror, as it revolutionised so much for the gaming industry back then and still plays better than some games coming out today. For one, at the time, this is the first Resident Evil game that didn't play like this, so that in itself was a bold move. But a story about zombie Ganardos that is surprisingly engaging, a cast of genuinely interesting characters, making the game one big escort mission and having to protect Ashley the whole time without it becoming annoying, being able to shoot off certain limbs, which still today not all games do. This game is so ahead of its time it isn't even funny. Do I look like I'm laughing? No, because it's not funny. So naturally, everybody was hyped for the sequel, Resident Evil 5. No, such a crap and boring game. No, I can't that game now. Not that game. Anything but that game! So since Resident Evil 4, everyone has been dying for a sequel, since there hasn't been one. Resident Evil 6 is a game review. So here we are, Resident Evil 6. Hey, is that one of them that kind of looks like a giraffe with it? You know? Yeah, I know. I get it. I get it. A new change of pace this time around on the multiple campaigns, each of them made pretty differently. There's Leon Kennedy's, Chris Redfield's, and a new guy called Jake Muller's. They all arc over the same story, and I personally love things like this. Seeing multiple stories intertwined has always been really interesting to me. And since they're all made pretty differently, it might take a minute or two to get through each one, so keep that in mind. Also, because there's a lot of pressure on this game considering what it's following, you're assuming I'm going to be a little bit lenient on the bias. Well, we'll see. The overall plot in Resident Evil 6 follows the President revealing to the public the truth behind the Raccoon City outbreak back in 1998, thinking it will solve some bioterrorism problems. But, spoiler alert,
Mr. President!
Yeah, it didn't really solve anything. So all three campaigns are pretty much about trying to survive in whereverville, but of course they all have their own stories as well. I won't be talking about the individual plots because A, potential spoilers, and B, they all bored me, I stopped paying attention, and I forgot what was going on. As I was saying, each campaign is pretty different, with Leon's focusing on horror, Chris is focusing on action, and Jake's focusing on melee action exploration stuff. Starting with Leon's campaign, I was cautiously hopeful that it could still retain the isolated, tense feeling that Resi 4 created so well. And while I can't deny that it's still there in some aspects, Leon's campaign doesn't seem a survival horror as much as it does by which I mean more cinematic and actiony. Although Leon's campaign seems like the result of a drunken Michael Bay, while mixing herbs, talking to Hunnigan, noticing your ammo count is fairly lower than the zombie count in front of you, and solving puzzles, it does start to resemble a mediocre yet enjoyable version of Resi 4. Well, not so much the puzzles, as there are pointers telling you where to go, what to do, and how to do it, but you see my point. But that doesn't mean to say that there isn't any horror in the game at all. You'll see this happen like 30 times. Also, the traditional Resi feeling of panic as the zombies are closing in on you, and as you're frantically searching for ammo, you're hoping a triggered event will happen that will get rid of them all, it's still pretty much there in some parts, so that's pretty good. Overall, I think I'll give Leon's campaign, it's not terrible rating. Moving on to Jake's campaign, as I said, this campaign goes under the specific genre of melee exploration stuff, or whatever it was that I said. And the easiest thing to compare this to is, weirdly enough, Uncharted. I mean, sure, it's pretty different, seeing as there are huge zombies, bland characters, uninteresting stories, and overly powerful combat since he's a melee guy. But there are some set pieces that seem pretty Uncharted-y, except as Uncharted feels smooth and flowing, Jake seems to be more cumbersome and stupid and hurry up! Yeah, he does an overdramatic backflip while swinging from a pole. I don't. When I first started this campaign, I was pretty disappointed when I heard that this centered around melee more than anything else. But what that just means is you get all of your weapons, plus you can just kick the shit out of a room of zombies. To the point where hand-to-hand combat versus a zombie with a machine gun isn't as unfair and stupid as it sounds. So I'm actually pretty surprised to say that I had more fun playing as this guy than I did playing as Leon. I'll give this campaign actually not that bad rating. And finally, moving on to Chris, and I'm gonna be as blunt as I can possibly be about this. It's like a million other games you've played before. Not a single interesting feature to the point where I actually fell asleep in the first chapter. Yes, what you're watching here is me playing the game while falling asleep. Fun fact, by the way, the last game I fell asleep playing was the Golden Compass on PS2. If you can tell already, that isn't a good sign for a game. Okay, maybe I am being a little bit too harsh on it, because it isn't strictly speaking bad, but it's just generic. Not only wasn't there anything that kept me wanting to play, there wasn't even anything that kept me wanting to stay awake. And as a result, I had to struggle to get as far into the first chapter as I did. I know reviewing the campaign without playing enough of it to have a proper opinion isn't professional at all, but I really don't want to go back to play anymore, so I'll just give this a boring rating. As much as I am praising elements of this game, there is something that I kinda need to make clear that goes for all of these campaigns. It is such a tedious chore to play. The reason this review took so long was purely because I had to force myself to play any more of it, and this is before I'd even played Jake's or Chris's campaign. There is actually a fourth campaign that I should be reviewing, but you have to complete all the other campaigns, and I don't want to do that. Even when I died, I was like, I don't even care at all. I don't even have enough interest in the game to be annoyed at this point. Whenever you pick up a herb, instead of it going straight into your thingy for you to use whenever you want, you have to go to your bag, which doesn't even pause the game, click on the herb, drop it into whatever this is, and then you can use it. Because as we all know, this was so stupid and badly made, wasn't it, Capcom? You could argue that it doesn't pause the game because it makes it more tense, but no, it just makes it more stupid and annoying. When creating a session for you to play online, unlimited ammo is just there as an option. The franchise have revolutionised survival horror specifically for its ammo conservation when in tense situations. Now it just has the limited ammo mode. That's good. That's good. I'm really starting to question your decisions, Capcom. And when I finally found a friend to play the game with, I was presented with the best way to play multiplayer in, because obviously if you don't agree that this is the best layout for multiplayer, then you are quite frankly a moron! So as soon as I saw this, I was like, I can't play the game like this, I'm leaving. So overall, Resident Evil 6 is an average forgettable game that's kind of fun, but it's not a game you'll look back on with many fond memories. This review has turned out a lot more ranty than I ever intended it to be, but what can I say, I rated the best part of this game as being not bad. But forgetting about Resident Evil 4 for a second, and looking at this game for what it is, it's not terrible. There are definitely some fun parts of the game, and it's definitely an improvement on Resi 5. It isn't anything special, sure, but does it deserve the score it's been getting on Metacritic? No way. Sadly, it's clear that Resident Evil is no longer a survival horror franchise, and it doesn't look like it's about to return to its horror roots anytime soon. But for what it isn't bad, albeit a pretty big disappointment. And while you might even be having a good time with this game, you'll still be wishing it was the game you were hoping it would be. So that's pretty much Resident Evil 6. Remember my Borderlands 2 review when I was saying a sequel could be a worrying concept? This is kind of what I mean. It's quite a disappointment considering what came before it. And you know what? I did write an exit for this review. I don't know how to end it, so I'm just gonna go out the same way I came in. I'm not good at ending. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this review, it's your lucky day. I got more of it right here. The left annotation will take you to my previous review of Borderlands 2. But I personally love being forced into situations where I have to adapt of my own accord, as opposed to getting the game to do it for me, or having the game just do it for me. Or click the right annotation to watch my new LP of Skyrim on my new channel, Farfetched Plays. Down there. Die, you evil fiend! Well, I guess he paid attention. They like Let's Plays, except edited down, quite like my reviews. Check it out if you like my content, because I could really use your support. Also, if you enjoy my stuff and want to support me, click subscribe. Even though you can just click subscribe above this video, I thought I'd add annotation that did the exact same thing in the video. I don't know the sense in that, but I just thought I'd do it anyway. Anyway, I gotta go. I'm currently undergoing therapy for my memories playing Resident Evil 5. See you next time. By the way, I've never actually played Resident Evil 5 in my life, but don't tell anyone.